All right, we got our Kawasaki Versys 300 on the lift here. This is a 2020 model. They really haven't changed this bike much, specifically the engine, what we're dealing with in years. So this is going to be applicable to all the Versys 300. And this is also pretty much the exact same engine in the Ninja 300. So that'll work for that as well. So what we're going to do to get to this point is pretty annoying. That's why I'm making the video. Now we're also making a repair manual, which will have tech support and step-by-step instructions with pictures of every bit of this. So I recommend using that to really, especially if you've never done this before. So you will need to remove the fuel tank, some body work. You're gonna have to get the valve cover off to get down in here. Before you get to your valve cover, this is where it gets kind of annoying. The thermostat housing over on the right side of the machine is in the way. So the thermostat housing is going to have to go, which means you're going to have to drain your coolant. At the point in this bike's life when you're going to do a valve inspection or adjustment, it's probably okay to go ahead and drain your coolant anyway to make you feel better about having to do that, because it sucks. But anyway, so you're going to get your thermostat, your coolant hoses out of the way. You will also need to remove some of the emission stuff, the air switching valve that injects the fresh air into your exhaust port to burn up unburned gases, the hose that goes from that to the air box, your little map sensor that has a vacuum line that runs down to your throttle body. That's going to have to get out of the way. You will have to remove your stick coils to get your valve cover off. You don't have to take the spark plugs out. It certainly makes it easy to turn the engine over. And once again, like the coolant, if you're this far in the life of the bike, you know, why not throw a couple new spark plugs in while you're at it? So stick coils, spark plugs. Let me turn the heater off over here. It's still cold in March. So, and it's not a bad time. Just, you know, check the condition of your spark plugs. They should look, you know, it's kind of not white, not black and sooty. If they're black and sooty, you should probably check your air filter, but they should have a nice like brown color to them. Okay, so now that you've got all that out of the way, now you can start to look at your valve cover here. So you can get to the bolts at this point, but you're not quite done yet. The cover for the reed valve for the pair system, you're gonna have to take that off. It's just it doesn't seem like there's enough room to get that out. Once you get that off, just be aware the little reed valve lives in there. So if you drop it, or just be aware it's in there. Once you get all that out, you can then start to remove your valve cover. It's a little bit of a tight fit. It will come out at this point. You do need to lift it up and over the right side of the engine. So when working on motorcycles, as you're sitting on the bike, things are always labeled left to right as you're sitting on the machine. So this won't fit out the left side. It fits out nicely out the right side of the machine. So now that we've got all that out of the way, you'll need to remove these the other one here, these two inspection covers here. This one allows you to get to the crankshaft so you can turn it over. This one allows you to see the position of your crankshaft so you can have it in the right spot. You have to have it at top dead center on the compression stroke. So then I recommend a breaker bar. Something with a ratcheting head's a little trickier to get it properly aligned. 14mm socket on the end of a breaker bar. We can now turn our engine over. You're going to want to turn your engine counterclockwise. So start by doing that, and as you're turning it, you're going to watch your camshaft lobes rotate also. So what you're going to be looking for is that they face away from each other like they are right here. This lobe's facing that way, that lobe's facing that way. At the same time, you will see I'll just drew it here because it's hard to see in the inspection window with this camera, but you're going to see the 1T mark is what you're looking for. Now, it is possible if you go all the way around and you can have that 1T mark aligned down here in this inspection window, but the cam lobes are facing towards each other. That is the wrong spot. So you want to, if you're at that spot, just go one revolution around again. Watch your cam lobes as they start to face away from each other. Just look down in this little inspection window for that 1T to show up. Once you're at that point, you're now ready to check the valve clearance on cylinder number 1. What you're looking for is you're just going to take and slide your feeler gauge. Do this and then I'll get out of the way. You're going to put your feeler gauge underneath of the bucket that actuates the valve and the actual cam lobe, and you're just looking for a nice light drag there. The spec is different between the intake and exhaust, so I've got 0.06 of an inch for the intake and 0.09 of an inch for the exhaust. If your feeler gauges fit in with a nice light drag, and there is a usable range here which we will put into the service manual, if it's in the range, you're good to go. Once you have a nice light drag on those gauges, you can move on to the next cylinder. So, doing that, we will continue to rotate our engine counterclockwise until we see, I drew that also. So now what you're looking for is a 2T mark, which indicates cylinder number 2. So once we get to there, a little farther, okay. Now on this one, if you started out like we showed, you got your 1T mark and your cam lobes facing away from each other, you can go ahead and safely go counterclockwise to the 2T mark, because what's going to happen, if we look inside of the engine, the way these cam caps are, you can only see a little bit of the intake cam lobe. You can't really see them anymore. You just have enough room to fit your feeler gauge in. So same thing with cylinder number 1, you're going to put your feeler gauges in there, check for that light drag. Now, if you don't have the light drag and you can't fit one of the feeler gauges in the range, you're going to have to remove your camshafts and get your buckets out and get to your shims, do a little bit of math, and get the right size to get them back into spec. It's really not that bad of a process once you've got to this point. We're not going to take those out in this video, but like I said, we do have the full repair manual that goes over this, and it'll do the step-by-step instructions at cyclopedia.com. And if you get hung up, you have tech support with your manual. You can call me up, write a service ticket, and we'll go through it with you step by step, and then you can get this job done. So hopefully that just sort of clarifies what's going on this valve inspection and helps out and makes it a little bit easier.